Hey, my name is Abigail, and I married the high school bully. It all began when I was at high school. I never did fit in for many reasons, but one of the biggest was, well, me. I'd always been the tallest girl in the class. I was the tallest student my year. I was bullied constantly because of my hobbies, my looks, and just about everything, but the worst of it all was my height. The worst bully for it was a boy named George. I did not just get bullied at school, but at home too. George lived next door. No matter where I was, I could not get away from his name calling. Hey, Abby, when are you going to stop growing? Hey, Abigail, could you grab that for me? You have long feet. Most of the insults were not very creative. But when you get them every day of your life, it hurts. Anyway, I never let the bullying get to me. You could say I stood above it. High school passed as quickly as it could, and when we all graduated, I could not wait to go to college. Mostly because I got to move out of state. I eventually ended up working at a hospital as a nurse. My parents were so proud of my accomplishments. I worked at the local hospital and had the perfect job, the perfect house, a happy life. Now, I know what you're thinking. Abigail, do you have a boyfriend? Well, to be honest, I never really found anyone that just clicked. I had boyfriends. My friends at the hospital tried to hook me up a few times, but there was nothing that interested me. A few years into my work at the hospital, I was put on 48-hour shifts, which gave me 2 days off after. I spent the afternoon riding at my favorite cafe down by the bank of the river. It was a hot summer day, and a cool breeze was a sight for sore eyes put against the heat and humidity of the office I shared with 6 others. I was tapping away at my laptop and scratching my notes in my notebook when something bumped into my desk and knocked my papers to the floor. I stood up quickly and began to gather them together. After I had caught all I could see, I saw who had nudged me. A rather handsome gentleman who was busy picking up some of the other ones I had missed. I'm so sorry, miss. I was not paying attention, he apologized. Let me get you a drink, he offered. No, it's fine. I have one, I replied, and looked down the table where my cup of tea was pouring itself onto the cobblestones. I insist. He turned and waved a waiter over. What would you like? I gave him my order and he grinned at me. That's an odd tea to drink. I only knew one girl back in my high school who drank that tea. He sat down at the table beside me as we chatted. It was over an hour before I realized we hadn't even introduced ourselves. My name's Abigail. My name's George. My heart jumped for a moment. Even after all these years, I still had slight memories of my bully. I told him that little detail and he smiled softly. That's actually funny, because I knew a girl named Abigail back in my old school. Apparently, I wasn't the nicest boy in the school to her, but I don't remember much of it. Why is that? I asked as a small pit grew in my stomach. A year after I graduated, I was in an accident. I got pretty messed up and I had major surgery. I still can't remember the accident and parts of my past are just flashes. But if I could go back and tell that girl I'm sorry, I would. I stared at the man before me and blinked. Leaning forward, I stared in his eyes. Is your last name Fulton by chance? He turned his head and blinked. Yes, it is. His eyes focused on me and widened. Abigail? Abigail Matthews? I nodded slowly, and he put his hand to his mouth. Oh my, To say that we spent hours just talking was an understatement. It turns out that George was a lot different than he had been in school, and he wanted to make it up to me for all those years he had bullied me. We went to fancy restaurants, he took me on trips. We got married on the beach in the Mediterranean. That's the story of how the worst person in my life turned into the best person in my life. Just wanted to tell my tale. Thanks for listening.